All right. How's it going, people? Seems to me that fly fishing is becoming a trend here in the last few years, and it's now reminding me being a bit of a young, heavy duty mechanic apprentice. Most young apprentices will buy the big fancy snap on toolboxes and the brand name Snap on and Mac tools, but they have no idea how to use them. And of course, the experience and the learning with a cheaper tool, moving up to getting the better tool and appreciating how much better quality and how more efficient it works and how you can do your job better and more efficiently and easier, will come in time. But I believe this is the same with fly rods. Lots of new people in the sport want either the most expensive rod because it's all hyped up, or the same blue or green or this kind of rod or that kind of rod that Buddy has. And to me, that's wrong because they need to get to know what kind of casting style they have. But everybody always started out with the old cheap rod from Cabela's or Walmart or Canadian Tire to learn with that cheap rod. And then when they learn how to cast and fish with that rod and have some success in landing fish and fighting fish with that rod, knowing how to use it, only then will a person fully appreciate a rod upgrade. Whether it be a $200 rod from there, $400, $600, $1,000, $2,000 bamboo rod, or plus, the sky's the limit from there. But you will also soon figure out after quite a few years that a fly rod can turn into an extension of your own body. So if you get the right fly rod matched to you, it will become way better. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot more that goes along with it. A fly line matched perfectly with a tippet and a leader is going to help you out to cast, but it does mostly start with the fly rod. Make sure that if you go out fishing, you meet some friends while you go out fishing. It's pretty easy to find friends that'll let you cast a couple times with their rod to see what kind of rod you might like, and make sure you ask them why they chose that rod and what they use that rod for. Many fly fishermen over the years will get a few different rods. They might have two rods that they've used for 20 years, but they also have a couple other rods that they use in certain situations. Or they might be one of those people that as soon as the sun goes down, as soon as the sun goes behind the clouds, if it's this kind of moon, if it's that kind of moon, if it's raining, if it's windy, if it's chilly, they got a different rod for that. That's a little extreme, but each to their own. Now, make sure if you're going to buy a rod that is over $200 to $300, you look into the warranty. Sage and Redington, apparently, same company that does own the rods, but apparently a lot of the people I talk to with Redington rods, if they have any warranty issues, it's not a big deal. It takes a little bit of time, but as long as that part's in stock, the part gets shipped out pretty quickly and they're backup fishing. I do recommend, though, everybody have a cheap backup rod just in case something happens. Sage, the same company, sister company to Redington, apparently is horrible right now. Please, everybody in the comments, let me know if this is true. We're in Canada. We have different shipping rates. We have different shipping times. Don't get me wrong. But it should only take an extra day or two to get to Canada. So everybody I've talked to, people even at different reputable companies that I've talked to, have had the same problems shipping out custom rods. So let me know if that is still the case. But I have a couple Sage rods. I've have a couple older Sage rods. I love them, but I haven't had to warranty them for a long time. I did have to warranty them twice. My buddy slammed one in his car door. Wasn't a problem to warranty it. Got it back relatively quick. And then another one, I walked into a tree talking to the same buddy. And same thing, within, I believe it was a month and a half, got my rod back, which I sent it in the wintertime, wasn't a big deal anyways. Other than that, rods can cost more than or the warranty, I should say, can cost more than the rod itself. So make sure if you buy a $200 rod, the warranty's not going to cost you more than that. Sometimes the shipping fees can cost more than the rod it's worth. So sometimes it's not quite worth it. Recently, I bought a rod from Orvis. Actually, I bought a rod that was used online from Facebook Marketplace, and it was a Helios 3D. I bought it broken. It had a broken tip on it. The guy broke the tip, hasn't used it in years. And I emailed Orvis. Within 35 minutes, I had an email back. They gave me a rod repair number. I called them the next day from work on a Tuesday, gave them the repair number. They billed me $28 Canadian for express shipping. I received the broken rod part at my door by Friday. To me, that has won me over. A 25-year warranty on all their rods, except for the lowest end rod that they have, is blows me away. If you can get a part shipped within 3 to 4 business days to Canada for $28, and it does not depend on the rod, it's going to be the same. It's just a quick bench fee and the shipping cost. So it doesn't matter if that rod's a $20 rod or a $300 rod or a $1,500 rod. It's going to be that same shipping. So that makes it worthwhile for sure on that rod. So I'm going to say great job, Orvis. That's probably the best you're going to find around here these days. And apparently, according to the people I know at reputable fishing stores that might rhyme with Rebellas, I don't want to say their names, or the Wishing Mole, they all say that G. Loomis is actually one of the worst to have a warranty issue with, because they seem to have rods that take over 2 years to get back, or at least a full fishing season. So let that sink in a bit when you buy those really expensive rods, and then you cannot have any support from a company, which in my mind is just ridiculous. Now, this is speaking from a Canadian standpoint, but that's also talking to actual reputable companies that are distributors as well. So again, in the comments, let us know if you've had any warranty issues with rods, how long it takes to get them back, how much it costs to get them back, if there's a bench fee, shipping fees. Obviously, there's going to be shipping fees. So let us know just to compare, see what they're like compared to Canadian and American rods and shipping rates. Again, if you have a $200 rod, it's going to be roughly the same price to get it replaced as a $1,500 rod in most cases. So again, make sure you research the rod you're going to buy, and hopefully you can get to cast it before you buy the rod. The best time to buy a rod, in my mind, is to at least and test it and compare it is at we have a sportsman show in Canada here. Every province has a sportsman show or a regional fishing sales extravaganza. So sometimes they will have rods on display with reels set up, and you can switch them down to different reels and different lines, and there'll be a casting booth and stuff like that. They'll have a little red yarn for hooks, so you can kind of see as your line's casting out how it's flying in the air. And make sure you guys, if you're going to spend more than $200 on a rod, these rods can literally last a lifetime. So make sure you ask if you can cast it, or if you can maybe like return it within a month or within a couple weeks, if you're not buying it, in the middle of winter or something like that where you're not going to use it. But that's a big thing. Like, I've had rods for over 17 years plus. They last a lifetime if you buy a good rod and you treat it right. Make sure you guys keep your fly lines out of the UV light. Buy a reel cover. A reel cover is like $6 on Amazon nowadays. It's pretty cheap. And that potentially can save. If you're going to buy a good rod, the reel's not that important. We're going to do a reel video here right away coming up. But the reel is not going to make a big difference depending if you're going to be fighting huge fish and you're going to be backing up, getting into your backing and using your reel to drag and stuff like that. For sure, a reel is going to make a difference. Most people don't even use a reel. If you get into your reel, you might just use it quickly. It's not going to be a big deal. The rod's definitely where you want to spend your money, and fly line. Fly line, like we were saying, if you're going to spend $150 on fly line, you're not going to want to let it just burn up in the sun. You're going to want to get a reel cover or take your reel off and put put it in a bag or something, get it out of the sun. It's just going to kill the new lines. They make it on purpose so that these lines don't last that long. Lines usually last 10 years plus if you looked after them. Not no more. So make sure you look after them. They might last you 3 to 5 years. It's getting pretty expensive to keep all these fly lines on these reels nowadays. Don't get caught up in all the hype on the fly rods. If you ask your grandfather what technology was in the rod he had, he probably won't even be able to understand or answer that question. The rods back then were mostly fiberglass rods. They had some flex to them. They had different backbones to them. They didn't really have any technology to them. All the eyelets were pretty much the same. Now there's tungsten, ceramic, all these different kinds and types and brands of eyelets, types of carbon fiber and nanofibers and different kinds of fibers, how rods are wrapped, different lays of the wrap. So it's just ridiculous on keeping up with the technologies nowadays. Like, you can literally get a $120 rod that's going to be way better than any of the rods. It's one of the cheapest rods. I don't recommend spending under that. If you're going to buy a rod off Amazon, you're going to take your chances. Don't get me wrong, there might be some good rods around, but I would spend at least $100, $120 on a rod to get into that entry level to learn. After that, the sky's the limit. If you want to complement yourself, my recommendation is, if you're going to spend more than maybe 35 to 60 days on the water a year, you can get a decent mid-end rod. If you're going to spend a lot more time on the water and you've been doing it for quite a few years and you maybe feel like your rod's the one holding you back, for sure complement yourself with a better rod. But talk to people that have better rods, and talk to the companies and the fishing distributors that sell the rods. Talk to an older person if you can that's been fishing and fly fishing for years. They're going to be the ones that'll help you out in making your decision on a proper rod. But stay away from the cheaper brands, definitely, especially with the warranties out there. Like I said before, the warranty makes a big difference in my mind. I have good rods. I have a rod and a reel that are 17 years old. Don't get me wrong, I'm very good with storing and cleaning my rods and reels before I put them away. But I do value my tools and my rods that can literally last a lifetime. And I can be able to pass these rods and reels to my son in 20 years or more, and he can use them literally for his lifetime if they're looked after and cared for. So it seems silly to me not to buy a good branded rod, but definitely not for the beginner. Don't go out there and spend the big money on the big branded rods. A lot of these rods are technically harder to cast, especially if you don't know what you're doing or a beginner. You're not really going to learn properly from these rods. You literally want a cheaper rod to learn from, in my mind. It's going to be a little stiffer. It's not going to have the proper action that most of these good rods have, which is not what you're looking for anyways. You want to find out how to cast, see if you like it in the first place. Don't go out spending $1,500 on a rod and then you literally just going to put it in your garage or in your closet and it's just going to take up space and collect dust, because that's just ridiculous. Go spend your $80, $120 on a rod. See if you like it. Make sure you go out. Make sure you're getting out. And if you're not, well, then it's not a big loss. If you are, pass that rod on to somebody who you take out fishing with you. Maybe a loved one, maybe your kids, a buddy that you want to go fishing with, and then you have a partner to go fishing with. And that's how you can do it. So don't get me wrong. We're going to be doing a thing on reels right away coming up. I bought a whole bunch of lines from Amazon. I bought a whole bunch of lines from a reputable company. So we're going to do a branding test on that. Apparently Rio has given China the rights to use their lines in production. So we're going to see, apparently Max Catch has the rights to that. So we bought a whole bunch of those lines. We're waiting for them to come in. We're going to do a review on those soon. I bought some cheaper backings here. In my mind, backing's not a big difference. It's just a polyester line. It's literally not going to make any difference. It's way cheaper to buy cheap stuff. So we're going to do a review on that. I would like you guys to comment on anything. If you guys have any comments on the brand or type that you like to fish with, for fly lines, fly reels, fly rods, what kind of hooks you like to use in the springtime, summertime, and fall. And please like and subscribe and keep watching our videos. We appreciate everything you guys do for us, and we have a great night.